Welcome to the More Life Podcast, where creatives, problem solvers, and entrepreneurs talk about squeezing more out and finding meaning in this crazy thing we call life. Let's dive in. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the More Life Podcast. If you're new around here, my name is Bart. Today we have an extra special guest. We have one of the very few, maybe the first ever repeat guest. Nobody has ever been repeated. But today we are here with the one and only Marquis Murray. Process. Oh, I messed it up. What was I supposed to call you now?
Business process consultant.
Oh my goodness, business process consultant Marquis Murray. I'm not even gonna redo it. I'm gonna keep it in. I want people to know that I'm still humble and I make mistakes sometimes. Marquis, say what's up to the people, man.
How you doing? It's good to be here. Honored to be the first repeat guest on the show. Excited for the chat, Bart. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Marquis is a great friend of the house, and Marquis has been through a lot of things since we've last spoken to him. Last we spoke, Marquis was planning to move out east and go into a new chapter in his life. He was just finishing closing off one of his businesses and kind of putting all his eggs into the basket of a new one called Ditto. Marquis, I'd love for you to kind of walk us through a little bit about how Ditto went from that point. So I'm going to say 2021 because you guys experienced some
Yeah,
significant growth.
yeah.
And I know we're gonna get to the point where the business was sold and you joined and you did a whole bunch of other stuff, but I want to talk about the growth that you experienced during that time,
Mhm.
and how things kind of transpired through a transition of doing your old agency into this business.
Yeah. Great spot to start off. I mean, and it's all still fresh because this morning I recorded three podcasts this morning for my show, and the first one was with a former employee of mine, who was our senior business analyst, Chloe. And we
Wow.
we were just like recapping on just all the amazing things that happened at Ditto and where we started and what problems we were fixing. And so it was really cool to just like revisit that. But yeah, I was running a marketing agency at the time, and around 2020, things started to take a nosedive, like a lot of people's businesses did. But I had been searching for something more, even prior to the 2020, and Ditto was really born out of that. I realized that my passion really lied in operations and helping businesses get the most out of their tools and improve how they work around their tools, as well. And so, yeah, really when Ditto launched in March of 2020, I was just fumbling around. I still had some of my marketing clients, but I made a point to talk to my team and say, hey, the goal here is that Ditto will take over as the moneymaker and will eventually say bye to Media Crate. And I can't remember exactly where that tipping point was, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely around sometime in 2021 where things really began to ramp up.
That's wild. Was there a point of you had to evaluate whether or not the skills were transferable from your team in the old business to the new business to be like, hey, can these people do it? Can they switch it in their brain? Because as
Yeah.
leaders, you're often ahead of the curve already. You've already thinking, dreaming, believing about all that stuff. But you have to do it for your team as well. You're not. It's not just you and this team.
Yeah, that was difficult because yeah, in making that transition, I knew that there were people that were relying on me and had, showed their loyalty throughout the ups and downs of Media Crate. And so when Ditto, was happening, it was kind of like I was riding in two camps, and I had a marketing team with Media Crate, and then on the Ditto side, I needed an operations and delivery team, and that space was occupied by me, right? Like I was the only person delivering.
Yeah.
And, it was tough in the beginning because I had to relay to my team members what Ditto was, what problems we were solving, who our new customers were, as I was trying to figure that out at the same time.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was a lot of that and just like keeping people in the loop and, really relying on them to help grow it and move it to the next stage. And so, yeah, there were some difficulties there. the ones that stayed on for some time and were instrumental in the growth and the stages that Ditto went through. And then, people moved on as well
Yep.
because, they didn't sign up to, work at a systems improvement consultancy, kind of thing. So yeah, it is different, but it was a nice gradual transition.
I love it. There's so much, to unpack there because you have people which matter a lot, right? To have people believe
Yeah.
in you and people to say, yes, I do want this for my business. Yes, I do want this for how this is going to move and transition. And I believe in this vision. I believe in what Marquis is doing, and I believe that this is going to be a good decision. And
Yeah.
then you have people who are in there like, whoa, this is a lot to take in, but of course I'm going to try and see how it works, and you never know how it all plays out.
Yeah.
And then as you are transitioning, you're also, redefining, like you said, your target audience, who the right people are for you to have in your network.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like for a team that is kind of run and gun now, that's probably used to feel very seasoned and comfortable,
Yeah.
to now have to be connected in such a way where, hey, we have to make sure we stay close because things are moving fast.
Yeah.
And what was the answer yesterday might be different today because I'm still trying to, like you said, figure it out
Yeah.
myself. How do you guys stay in constant contact and communication while many fast decisions are being made?
Yeah, that's a good question. And somehow it worked out that we all lived like in the same geographical location, right? And so like my team right now, we're fully remote. I'm the only one in Nova Scotia. The next closest team member is in Calgary.
Wow.
And then we've got people on the West Coast, in the US. But yeah, we're all living within like 15, 20 kilometers of each
Yeah.
other. And so we made a point to, stay connected physically, but also it was really important for me to help them stay connected to the vision and that they understood what it was as I was rolling it out. So that was, involving them in the goal setting, involving them in the
Right.
strategy that we would approach around marketing, involving them in the copy and the updating of the new website. Because we were a marketing team, we didn't have
Wow.
anything. We didn't have marketing assets. We didn't have a website. And so it was really easy to involve them in a lot of that decision making. And then again, because we were so close to each other, it was easy to say, hey, let's go to the co-working space,
Yeah.
on this day and that day. We'll spend the day working together. We'll have lunch together. We'll strategize a little bit. And that was really cool to have because I had never had that before.
Very cool. So you use collaboration to kind of be the glue to
Yeah.
be like, okay, you know what? I may not have all the answers.
Yeah.
I may not see the pathway forward super clearly, but I do know you guys are the right people and I value your input. I need you on my side so that we can figure this out together. That's very, very key because there's a lot of people that go through change in their business or their departments inside their businesses, and they don't involve the key decision makers or the people that this will affect the most.
Yeah.
And then you find that there are things that are disjointed that don't feel like they belong, like they are out of worldly almost. Like who thought of this idea? Because if you spoke with the right people, you would know that that doesn't align. It may align with the primary objectives, but there are secondary and tertiary things that this affects, and those people also have stake inside of these decisions that's being made as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And my poor team at the time, right? Like there changes literally every day. And you've probably been there, Bart. Like you go off on a weekend, and I saw one of your TikToks the other day, and your last red flag was that you can't relax, right? And like that is absolutely me. Like on the weekends in the shower, when I'm
Oh
supposed to be
man.
enjoying time with my family, like I cannot relax. I cannot turn it off. I'm always thinking about the next thing. So then, it's Saturday night, everyone's gone to bed, and I'm up because I can't relax. And I'm doing something, I'm changing something, and then I bring it to my team Monday morning, and we had agreed on something Friday, and now it's completely different. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, we can't keep up with this. So yeah, they were super gracious and they like trusted me, and I'm so thankful they did. But there was a lot of frustration in a lot of those
For
team
sure.
meetings as
I
well.
told myself that I was never gonna be this boss. I'm like, I hated it when my boss did this to me, where I call it grenade, right? You take the pin out of the grenade, and as he's leaving the meeting, say, "Hey guys, I just had a quick idea. What if we flipped everything around and we did the Q4 project and we do it for a Q2 launch and just
Yeah.
drop the grenade and walk out the door and just like what? Boom!"
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty
And
much
I'm
it,
like, I
man.
never knew that I could. I never knew that I could. It could be me, that I would be the one who would do this, where I'd be at home on the weekend or even any day of the week, and I would be listening to a podcast, and it would inspire something inside of me,
Yes.
and it
Yeah.
would inspire a Google search, which would inspire like an hour long Google search, and then the
Yeah.
next morning I have a new idea, and our
Yeah.
producer Amanda is on, and I'm sure she's smiling, grinning and laughing, saying, yeah, where he shows up, and all of a sudden, what we were gonna do, and we're not gonna do, but we're gonna do it this way instead, or what you said was gonna be this way is now changed to a completely different way, a new model that we're
Yeah.
modeling this after. So
Absolutely.
it takes a lot of relationship for that to withstand.
Hmm.
If you have a team where there's no real like connectivity or anything like that, people are gonna get frustrated and leave.
Right.
But as long as it's not always and every time, you're gonna have those moments where you need to quickly take hold of the reins. The way that I would like to explain it is like, imagine you're out in the open seas and you're on a sailboat. I don't know if anyone's gone sailing before, but when you're sailing and all of a sudden the big gust of wind or the current of wind changes quickly, you often see the person. Now, I'm not a sailor myself. The person who is actually sailing the boat will quickly jump up to take control of to what's going on. And it's the exact same type of thing where it's like, oh, there might be something in cultural or in marketing trends, or there might be an opportunity that you never realized intersected with your business or your offering. But the moment you realize that something clicks in your head, and that's part of the reason why you're the leader and the visionary, is because you're tuned to that frequency where you feel like, oh, right, and you can see 5 and 6 steps ahead how this could
Yeah.
be an improvement to what's going on in your process. You quickly jump and take control. Why? Because the wind is blowing hard this way, and I want to catch that wind, and I want to
Hmm.
use that to leverage and to catapult us and use it as a catalyst to help us launch and go further. And the results might not show up right now, but the results over time might be exponential in
Hmm.
terms of same thing. If you're on a boat and you catch that wind, yes, you're gonna catch it, you're gonna start going that direction, but now you are getting more speed the longer you stay on that path, the longer
Yeah.
you ride that wind and that current that's happening. So there's definite benefits to having a team that is connected, a team that trusts each other, and having an overall culture. It doesn't have to be anything too deep. Even a
Yeah.
culture of like stick to itiveness and hard work. This is how a lot of entrepreneurs and startups use culture. They use it like, hey, we're in the trenches together. We're here to get something done. We have a great mission. I just finished watching We Crash. Have you seen this, Marky? It's the
Yes.
story
So good about WeWork. Yeah.
about
So good.
WeWork.
Yeah.
Unreal. And it's amazing how they use vision and mission to, in this case, overly, drive people insane and bring delusion
Yeah.
into workplace culture. But the same way where um, having a combined mission can really make you feel connected to something and make you feel like we can do anything. That's where there is power in that collaborative and startup energy. And as long as you have a true mission, something that can help you stay focused, I think that's what ultimately allows situations like yours to happen, where
Yeah.
they're like, we trust Marquis. He has a mission statement, but we don't have a plan on how we're gonna get there yet. So we have the airplane in the sky, but we still have to build the airplane, and we still gotta go ahead and do it. Right? We still have to build it as we're living it,
Right.
and that's a beautiful expression of the impact that you have as a leader, because people are willing to go when you say let's go. That not everybody do people do that. People are like, you know what, I'm out of here.
True. And following the same analogy, like on the sailing boat, I've watched a bit of Below Deck, so I'm pretty much an expert in sailing now. Uh,
Okay, I've heard about this show. I don't know. Is this a real show? Should I entertain this?
it's a real show if you
Chaos.
like trashy TV drama,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
reality TV, which I don't, but the storyline it hooks you. But the point I'm trying to like connect to here is like you talked about like the wind, the gust of wind and the current changing and grabbing the sails and then everyone kind of jumping into action. I think, what experience has taught me, and it's exactly that differentiates, where I was versus where I am right now, right? Like the experienced captain would read the charts and look at the weather and know
Yeah.
that they're going to be hitting that headwind and know to either get around it or be prepared when they hit it, right? And
Hmm.
so and then the team, the deckhands, everyone around you is then aligned because they now know the plan. So for me, like coming back to this version 2, like my team is much smaller
Yeah.
now. We're very tight knit. Like I'm keeping it small on purpose. The vision that I communicated to the team at Ditto, I mean, it was, how long was it? Like 17 pages, and it was like pretty and colorful and has all these great things on it. And it was great. Like it inspired people, and a lot of those things we achieved in the vision. But now, like my vision is 4 lines, and then I have my goals underneath it. My mission has not changed. Like that's always
Yeah.
been the same thing. But the vision, it's just like I don't need all those frills. Experience has taught me just like keep it simple, learn from those mistakes. And I think that's really helped me in this next stage. And the people that are with me now, right, like they get it. It's simple.
Simple.
And I'm not, I'm more prepared now than I ever have been. And I tell them that the vision is clearer than it's ever been.
Boom.
I know how we're going to get there, and we're going to do it a little bit differently. So I feel like I've course corrected already, right? And
Elevate the
I'm ready to
world's
launch.
consciousness.
Yeah, something like that. Disrupt the industry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Now from
yeah.
now from WeCrash, elevate the world's consciousness. I'm like,
Right, right,
what?
right,
That's the mission
right,
statement for a co-working space.
right. Yeah. How are they doing? Yeah,
I don't know, man. We should set up a flare for WeWork. I don't know how they're doing.
no kidding.
But so moving forward for you know what then transpired, because then you went through a season of growth where you were officially closing down Media Crate,
Yeah,
where it was like, hey, we did what we came here to do,
yeah,
and we've now swung from one vine like Tarzan. We've let go of this vine, and we're going to grab hold of this vine now,
yeah.
and we're now going forward in this new mission, in this new direction. So, what did growth look like for you and your team, and how did you guys handle that?
Not well. Didn't handle it well. Um, I'll obviously provide some more context, but like thinking back to it, like, and the reason why I'm keeping my team small now is because I grew too quickly. And at the time, I would always talk about the fact that scaling and growing are not the same thing. When you
Ooh, that's
scale,
good.
it happens on a consistent, upward trajectory, whereas growing, you're expanding sideways without like growing vertically. And so my team was growing, I was getting bigger, but we weren't scaling our operations. We weren't any more profitable, in those beginning stages, right? And so like that was huge for me. And it was exciting because I'm like, oh, new client. Okay, who do we have to take this client on? Great. Oh, we have to hire someone. We have to, right? And
Yeah,
so it was like, okay, got to find the next person to come in. Whereas if I had stayed focused on, fully resourcing absolutely everybody, and now my mindset is, don't hire until it hurts, right? Like don't hire
yes,
until like you've exhausted all resources, everyone's at full capacity. You've gone through a season where you have some data to back up your decision making, right? Like that's where my head's at now. So I mean, what did growth look like? It was heavy. It moved really, really quickly. I made the decision when I first started to double down on our partnership with the sauna. And
Yep.
when I was like really getting into it, like there weren't a lot of resources online around, how to use a sauna effectively, and not just the features, but use cases. So I started getting questions from prospects and people in certain communities, and I started making content around how to answer those questions. And YouTube was my channel. And so I was getting people watching the videos, commenting on the videos, booking a call, and then there we go. There's
Your
my,
channel grew really fast because we
it
started
did.
around the same time.
Okay. And it's still not big. Like I think I just hit 4,000 subscribers, but like it's still our number one source of lead generation. I don't do any outbound. It's all coming from YouTube and then our
Wow.
partnership with Asana. So because of the commitment to consistent content, and the commitment to our partner Asana, right? Like I was doing everything I could. I made videos for their sales team so their sales team could share with their customers. So their customers were seeing my videos, and then the sales team would make the introduction to me, and then it's like, here's Marquis, and they're like, oh, I've watched this guy's videos, or oh, that's the guy from the video. Great. So it was things like that that I did that really helped, like almost like speed run, through that first stage, right? It's like we had a solution to the problem. We understood the problem. And because I had just stepped out of the marketing agency owner space, I was then connecting with a lot of marketing agencies, right? And marketing teams, which is, how we started working together.
100%.
But yeah, there was just a commitment to the partnership and content, and everything just kind of came from there. But again, the mistake I made was thinking that I needed this big team, because that's what people were buying at the end of it, was like
Right.
the agency, the consultancy. And I got lost in that for a little bit and paid the
Was the
price.
plan always for this to be a stepping stone for Ditto to be like, this will be a great asset to a larger firm? Or was the plan always like, I want to be the main person in this and hold on. I don't want to
Oh,
tie that statement to the next statement. Hold on, let me rephrase that.
sure.
uh, I was the idea that I can build this big enough so that it can be acquired by something, or is the idea like I'd like to keep this so that this is going to be my new thing and replace my freedom in terms of
Yeah,
how I live my life.
it was the latter. Um, I never thought of acquisition. I never even thought of that. Like I thought, I was thinking about legacy. Like my kids at the time, they're 7 now, so they would have been like 4 or 5 years old. Would
Right.
always say to me, "Oh, Dad, when I'm 18, I'm going to work at Ditto." And of course, they have no idea what that means, so you kind of just brush it off. But it was cute, right? And so I thought, oh, would this just be a family thing that I just keep growing, and it's a lifestyle business? And like that was my goal, was to
Yeah.
live the life of freedom that I started, media crates or Ditto to achieve, right? And so that's really what my thought was. I wanted it to be that whenever people thought about Asana, they thought about Ditto, right? Like Ditto was the brand, Marquis Murray was behind it, and like unintentionally, I became the face of Ditto, which I didn't like, because when people watch the videos, guess who they expect to be doing the work behind the scenes? They want Marquis to be doing all the work, and that was tough for a lot of people because they get to know me through my videos. They come through, and we have this great sales conversation. We build this relationship and this rapport, and then we have our kickoff call. And it's like, all right, peace out. And I made some mistakes there as well. Like that's not how it should have gone. But
Yeah.
Marquis quickly became the face of Ditto, and had to course correct to make sure that my team, and the people that were coming in, the customers, their expectations were managed as well. So there's so
Can we
much
take like
learning.
1 second
Yeah,
to sidetrack on that for a second?
sure.
Because this is a coin that I flip through back and forth, and again, I can feel Amanda laughing, even though she's on mute producing this episode. How many times I'm like, take my face off of all this stuff. They're like, but it does really well online. I'm like, I don't want it. And then like 2 or 3 weeks later, I've listened to a podcast about lifestyle marketing and about like how your personal brand is your ticket to success.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, can we get my picture back on that thing? And can we like elevate how many videos we're cranking out with the thumbnail being me and my big old forehead right bright and center? And it is the biggest. I think it is the most undisputed dispute
Right.
amongst agency owners and entrepreneurs is both are right, but which one is righter? Should I have my face on everything and build this into a lifestyle brand, or
Right.
should I build this as an agency or as an autonomous entity so that
Yeah.
it can kind of be its own thing? And the way that I probably have made the swap back and forth in this business alone over the years a dozen times, where I'm like, it drives me insane when all I see is my face, and then all of a sudden I'm like, how come we're not posting more things about me? My social
Yeah.
media should be the biggest. Like I should be prominent in this space as a thought leader and an expert. Have you ever
Right.
experienced this?
Yeah, I go back and forth on it all the time, and I think that's one of the reasons why I was so keen on, creating Ditto, the brand, was because I felt like who's gonna want to work for Marquis Murray? Who's gonna want to have an email that's, bart@marquismurray.com? Who's gonna want to have
Maybe a lot of people. I don't
conversations
know.
with me? It could be a lot of people, right? But, I thought, yeah, this brand needs to exist because then I have credibility because
Yeah,
then when they see me on the partner page of Asana's website
yeah.
and they see me on YouTube and they hear about my consultancy, then it's like, oh, there's a team there. Oh, okay, maybe he can do this work, right? So for me, it was kind of like, if I don't have this, is my name right now enough to, hold weight? And like I wrestled with that for a long time, and it's why like I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Quick fast forward without giving away too much, it's March 2023. I'm
Yep.
back out on my own and like Ditto's gone, right? Like all I have now is my name. I spin up my new website on
Looks
Square.
great, by the way. I spent a lot of
Thank
time
you.
looking there and maybe lifting a few things.
Thank you. Go for it. But like I spin up this Squarespace website on a Sunday afternoon and it's like, here I am, world, do you want this or not? And guess what? Nobody cares whether it's Ditto or,
That's
whatever, or Marquis Murray, or like, no one cares, right? Like they see me and they still call it Ditto. And I'm not going to correct them because it doesn't matter. All that matters is, can I do the work?
yeah.
Right? And so again, that's that experience talking. 'Cause it's like if I had known that, I would have saved myself so much hassle in the beginning. But
Oh, Marky, this is amazing. I'm so excited that we're doing this. Because I also didn't put until just now two and two together that you're now back on your own. Even though I've seen your website,
yeah,
I didn't put those two things together. I just like, oh, he wants a new personal brand. Who doesn't?
right.
Um, even though you it's so funny. Okay,
We'll get
so
there.
now let's get back. Let's go backwards again to where we
Sure.
were.
Yeah.
You're doing the growth. Things are growing too fast. Here comes, again, I'm using so many we crashed. I'm not saying this with a flub on any, but if anything, I remember I called you and be like, yo, dude, you did it.
Yeah.
You made it.
Yeah.
But like, just like we crashed, SoftBank, here comes this white knight being like, listen, you're growing really fast. You got a lot of things going on. How about we buy you? We acquire
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
How about that? How's that look? You know?
Yeah. Again, was not expecting it. It wasn't on the radar. I mean, in the back of my mind, it kind of always was. It wasn't something I was entertaining, but I knew that it could be a possibility because the party that came in, and started asking questions, we had, me and the CEO had built a bit of a relationship and I knew him through the Asana community. And, we had some sideline conversations when I was still running Media Crate. And it was, how's business? How are you managing a marketing agency and a operations consultancy? Like, how are you doing? And so we would talk numbers, and we would just, it was just two entrepreneurs just talking, right? And
Yeah.
so it was always kind of in the back of my mind, would he be interested? And he kind of said, what would a partnership look like, down the road? But like, Ditto is my thing. Like, I had something, and I'm like, no, this is mine. I want to grow it. So that's why I wasn't entertaining any kind of acquisition or exit. But we had had several conversations over the course of, that 2 years, really. And so when it came to it, it was interesting how it finally like came to be. I he's pretty well connected. Like, he knows a lot of people in the space, and he's pretty public about that. And I said, hey, I'm looking for a community, a mastermind.
Yeah.
There's so many details I'm leaving out, but I basically said,
I
like,
know.
I have this problem. I feel like I'm addicted to my business. I can't relax. I can't turn it off, and I need to know. I want to get around some people so that I can understand what my next steps as the business owner need to be, so that I can further separate myself, right, and like evolve to the next stage. And he said, oh, well, I'm throwing this event in Mexico in the fall. You should come out to it.
I think I've
And
heard of this before.
yeah.
I heard about an event from somebody else in Mexico specifically with like
Right.
extremely top tier like level entrepreneur CEOs,
Right.
exec types.
Yeah.
Okay, this is amazing. Keep going. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it was really cool. Like, I think it was 35 entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and like high level executives from like big corporations, and there were like sports team owners there. And so again, really well connected guy. And like, I wasn't going for that, but I just thought, man, if I can get around some people who I can just talk with and share where I'm at, maybe I can get something out of this. And so, interestingly enough, I was offered a chance to speak at this event, which I grabbed. And when I went there, there were just, you wouldn't even know who these people are if I said names. So like,
I
that's
know.
that's not the important part. But like, you sit down with them, they're just the most like down to earth, relaxed, friendly, just caring people. And then you get up and you hear like, oh, do you know who that was? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, it's the so and so. And I'm like, what are they doing talking to me? And so it was like one of those things where I was at this event, and that's not even the point of this story. But we were having conversations, and we were finally like in person together, and we sat down, a couple days, and really like talking numbers, and getting down to brass tacks. And I left there with a verbal offer to
Wow.
to buy the
Acquire.
company. Yeah, and I was like, that's not what I expected at all. But yeah, I had some stuff to think about now.
Yeah. And when you had that offer and subsequently the second offer from the person that I guess you knew, or however that worked out,
Yeah.
was the offer always to have you involved? Because I think there's a lot of Ditto that just oozes out of you, and its original ethos and mission statement, and how quickly it evolved. But you were pretty firm in what your place in the market was to be,
Yeah.
and how you could then leverage people's pain point for that. So I feel like that'd be the smart thing to do, is offer some equity, some salary, some whatever, to kind of mix it. Were both offers similar in that point, where they're like, you come here and help us as well, integrate it into our company?
Yeah. So regardless, like, the offer was really, it was fair, right? Like, I made sure of that, because I wasn't gonna give this up unless it like really made sense for me and my family. So we deliberated on that, and I got what I wanted. There was equity. I came in as a partner, which was really nice. Like, if I did it again, I probably would have pushed a bit more to have like remain, like have Ditto remain like as an
Yeah,
operating entity,
yeah,
because there was a brand there was some clout, there were relationships, and looking at the businesses, they're very similar. They're in the same space, but they operate on different levels. One is committed to hands-on keyboard, systems improvement, and one is more centered around education and training, right? And so what it ended up being was, a merger, more than anything. Sorry, it was an acquisition more than anything. It should have been a merger. And, I would have been great if I could have stayed the operating CEO of Ditto because, I built something up. But by that point, and again, there were lots of conversations and back and forth
Oh, I
and
can only
meetings and
imagine that
like,
this would be so complicated and so
yeah,
many moving parts.
yeah, we can't talk about all that in this podcast, but ultimately it just came down to, okay, this is the best decision for me, my family, for the work that we've done, for our customers, everything. And so,
100%.
we went through the motions, had some conversations, did due diligence, and the deal was closed.
Uh, Ultimately, when I called you, I remember saying,
Yeah,
as a business person, obviously, congrats.
yeah,
As the owner of a company, big ups yourself. But the number one thing is, as a black man,
yeah.
as an entrepreneur, secure the bag. Congratulations, my friend. You got the bag.
Thank
Okay?
you, thank
As
you.
long as the
Yeah,
bag has been received, all things will come out in the wash. There's
right.
more life to live.
Yeah,
We will figure it out. I'll see you Monday. I'll show up. We'll talk about it. Don't worry.
yeah,
It's fine. My number's still the same, but secure
yeah,
the bag.
yeah,
And I love to see it when people who you love and admire win,
hmm,
especially when it's people who are hardworking. And there's oftentimes, you can feel kind of a ways if you're petty, sometimes like me, when you see people winning and it's like, but they ain't working. It just happens. And some people, that's just the
yeah,
life they live.
yeah,
That's their cards they've been dealt.
right.
Is all they do is win, win, win. But when you see somebody, it's like, okay, so there's hope in this because I see somebody else who's putting in lots of effort, who is, has tons of consideration, who is empathetic towards the style of work and the culture that he wants to create, and they end up winning.
Yeah,
Then it's like, okay, that I'm doing it the right way. What was it Samuel Jackson said? He talked about like, I'm in the right place. It's just not my time yet. So that way, okay, it's just not my time. I'm doing all the things that I know I need to be doing, and building something the way that I want to build it.
right.
Not necessarily to say everyone has to follow your path in terms of selling and all that kind of stuff. But if you do whatever you define as success,
Yeah,
somebody can define the success as 100,000, somebody else $1 million. It
yeah,
depends on what you find and agree to being success.
yeah.
So, okay, we got all that out of the way, all the accolades. So what's going on now? Like, because you were there, what was your role in the interim there while you were working at this new firm?
Yeah, I was the VP of delivery, so overseeing all of the client operations, service delivery, overseeing the team of consultants there, and really working with the other members of the leadership team to steer the company.
Got it. And was there a timeline on that?
It was pretty open ended. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
the
That's
goal
good.
was that I would be there for an indefinite amount of time, and there were clauses in the contract where things like my podcast and my YouTube channel would remain mine. Any speaking engagements, I was working on a book at the time, so anything like that would still like
Yep.
remain mine. But it was pretty open ended. And the goal was really to just bring our two forces together and really grow something massive as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So what's the status now? You're building something again on your own, or you're doing more consulting?
that's right. Yeah. When I came out, I made the decision in at the beginning of March to leave that organization, and um, I didn't really know what next was going to look like. It's one of those scary moments where, and like you've been there, right? Like when
Yeah.
I decided to leave my corporate job, I had a decision to make, and my wife backed me up and was basically like pushing me to like start this thing on my own. And so
Shout out to the wives, all the wives out there,
all the wives
all the
supporting,
partners.
yeah,
Yep.
all of them supporting and believing in us. Um, and so, yeah, the decision to make, it's like, okay, I can, continue on in this route, or I can, make a new path for myself. And it was just because I'm a maker, I'm a creative. And I realized at that point that I'm not a good employee anymore, right? Like I've been gone too long. Like I can't work for somebody else,
I've
even
been
though
gone too long.
I've been
I'm
gone
too
too
far
long,
gone.
too far gone. I just didn't do well, now having to like clock hours and things like that and work for someone else. And so it was like, okay, what's next for me? And so what did I know? I knew what I was doing before. And so I used that opportunity to roll out a new personal brand because now I didn't have a name, right? New website, new colors, new everything, and photo shoot and all that. Double down on content. Brendan Bouchard, he's a influencer of types, makes
Yeah.
online courses and does consulting. And I watched one of his videos, and it's such a simple concept. And you hear people like Amy Porterfield and Jay Shetty and Tom Bilyeu say this all the time, but it's just like, and Gary Vee, be consistent, be consistent. But the way that Brandon like positioned it, it was like, decide on the thing that you're going to do and don't stop doing it. And I'm like, okay, that's it. And like a light bulb went off. I'm like, it's going to be YouTube. I'm going to grow my YouTube, focus on content, focus on helping people, focus on educating people, and like teach them everything that I know about Asana, process improvement, and project management. Right. And like, that's all that I had. I was just focusing in on that. So that meant getting on a video schedule, creating emails and making sure they absolutely go out every single week and not missing one. Doing my podcast and getting guests and appearing on other podcasts. It's just like, this is what I'm going to do. And it's paid off really well because I'm at that point where it's starting to hurt, right? Like I got to hire.
For sure.
But yeah, it's a really cool spot to be in,
Yeah,
taking all the learning.
we're hiring a video editor ourselves because YouTube. We made a decision maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. We moved Amanda from who from our process together and working together from project manager to content manager.
Okay.
And it lines up a little bit more with her skill set. She's a writer by trade, vocationally, and helping with writing captions and our newsletter and helping with our blogs and scheduling our video and producing our podcast. There's so much content that has to take place. But we made a decision to almost 100% roll back. If you go on my social media feeds, off of YouTube, off of Instagram, off Facebook. Our big thing is really LinkedIn and YouTube. That's like the biggest thing that we try to push. And even LinkedIn, where we're not anywhere close where we should be. We publish the most right now on TikTok and on YouTube. Video, I had a moment similar to yours where I was just like, video is where it's at.
Yeah.
I don't know why it took me so long for me to really let that sink in. And I'm like, of all the platforms, I have most chance of being discovered on TikTok, and I have the most chance of having compounded growth over a long period of time on YouTube. So I'm like, it's all about YouTube. That is the number one thing that I care about every single week when we talk about our metrics, is what's going on with our viewership, and trying to, and we're now. I feel like it's a hard place to be. A YouTuber is not easy because that rhythm of continually producing and writing and scripting, creating. Yeah, and you have to. I'm not gonna edit it, so and our.
And it's almost like you work for YouTube now, right? Like
for free.
That's my job now. I just feed YouTube. I feed content to YouTube so that people on the other side of the screen can consume it.
Brother, I don't have 4,000 followers. I'm about to hit 500 followers. So
okay.
So we've been diligent. We went from like having this was like a dormant YouTube account that I've had for years, and it was sitting at like 80 or 100 for a very long time. And then last year is when things just started exploding in my world, anyways, where we started getting actual attention. Being so, the issue has always been consistency. To go back to what you were talking about, we have these stutter starts and stops. And the issue that we've always found is we've never had a real consistent editor. We've been using piecemeal editing from here and from there and from another place or whatever. And now, I'm like, I'm gonna make the commitment. We're gonna try to find somebody who can be here long term, that can grow with us and can handle the ingest. Because I'm like, I can record more. I now have Amanda who can help me write more. So it's now a matter of whether or not we're going to be prepared to be able to do this in a way that is meaningful. Because those 2 months that we were very consistent before our current video editor went MIA, the growth was astronomical. Shorts were exploding, and we like doubled our monthly view within like 2 weeks. Just with
Incredible.
posting shorts every single day. And I'm like, okay, so it's obviously there. Obviously, we're in a slump because our editor is still MIA. We still don't have an
Yeah.
editor. But thankfully, we have had interviews all this past week, so we are trying to find the right partner. But I agree with you. Personal brand. I know we're going back to the personal brand.
Oh,
Building a
sure.
personal brand is extremely important because it kind of is your buffer for whatever is happening in the market or whatever is happening in the world, where it's like, oh, businesses are not doing as good, or entrepreneurship is becoming more complicated, or course sales or whatever. But it
Hmm.
doesn't matter if I am known online. If I and It's crazy how, you've read the Gary Vee book, I've read the Gary Vee book,
Yeah.
how you know it but you don't really do it.
Yeah.
That's the person building your personal brand.
Yeah.
It allows you so much latitude to be like, hey, you may have known me as Marquis Murray from Ditto, but now I'm Marquis Murray from Marquis Murray,
Yeah.
and or whatever is next, and whatever is going to be after that. Just as long as you got to remember Marquis Murray, and then that right there allows you the flexibility, which is why we got in this business for the first time in the first place.
It's
Is
true.
we wanted that flexibility to be able to live the lives that we get to decide. The same way you got to decide to say, sure, I'm going to sell this thing. It probably provided a great deal of pride. We also, we also want to have that same energy where, oh, I get to decide what is most important for me this day or this week, or how I'm going to live my life.
Yeah.
And I think having that personal brand that's tied to your work, again, as long as you're working hard, it's going to be extremely valuable in the long term game.
Hmm. Yeah. And the reason why I agree with everything you just said, but the reason why like I doubled down on like personal brand and wasn't afraid anymore, like the Gary Vee thing, it's like you know what to do, but you're not doing it. He goes even further. What he actually says is you're not doing it because you're scared. You're scared of what your friends will say, your old coworker's gonna say, your neighbor's gonna say, like your family's gonna say, and you have this content and it's just sitting there. And so when I heard that, it's like he's absolutely right. Like I don't want people to judge me or think like, oh, who is this guy? What does he have to say? And for me, like I'm still not comfortable. I mean, I'm comfortable on camera. I just don't like it. But it's like I don't care anymore. I'll put out anything. Like right now I'm sitting in a kitchen with a yellow background,
Yes,
and there's like
content is
stuff
king.
everywhere. Content is king. Like I'm not in my home office with my nice lights and my nice camera anymore. Like, and I keep putting this stuff out. Like, once you really stop caring about what people think or what you think people are thinking about you, because they're not the same, right? Like, that will set you free to just like release whatever. And like, I get like a little bit emotional sometimes because if I had listened to the dark voice inside that said, don't do
Mm,
it, don't make that video, where would my business be today? You know what I mean? Like it's a really weird thing to think about.
yes.
But yeah, anyway, I
I
digress.
recently watched a show, I believe it was called Three Echoes on Apple TV. I don't know why I'm plugging Apple TV so much.
The
But one of the
echoes.
Three Echoes, yeah, it's like something about something. I can barely remember. Um, but basically, the one of the characters says, "I know what I want, and I don't believe people when they say they don't know what they want."
Mm,
He's like, "My dad taught me a long time ago. Everyone knows what they want. It's whether or not they've made the decision to do what they need to do to get it done."
yeah,
I was like, "Oh
beautiful.
snap!" It's
Yeah,
like, it deep down inside, you know what you want.
yeah,
There's no such thing as like, oh, it doesn't matter. There's indifference. Like, no, no. Are
yeah,
you willing to do it?
yeah,
To do the work to get what you want?
yeah,
And that deal, has to be made. There has to be a contract where you're like, I'm willing to sacrifice XYZ to have ABC.
Yeah.
And you got to make that deal with yourself.
Yeah.
The same way you
Absolutely.
make a deal to sign a contract to sell your business or to join a team somewhere to get a job somewhere, the same way you got to make a deal with yourself to be like, I want these things to be true in my life. Here's what I'm willing to sacrifice for that. This is the terms of the contract. Here's how hard I'm willing to work, what I'm willing to sacrifice. Here are the things that I'm willing to put in place to make sure that this happens.
Yes.
And people sometimes ask, like, is there such thing as dreaming too big? There's no such thing as dreaming too big, as long as you're willing to back it up with the work. So you really want to be richer than Jeff Bezos or more adventurous than Elon Musk or whatever? Are you willing to put in the appropriate sacrifice to achieve those things? All right then. So
Yeah.
dream accordingly and live your life the way you want to live it. Marquis, man, I love seeing your face, brother. I can't wait to come out to Halifax and come party with you on the East Coast.
Got the space.
We got
Come on out.
we got to come hang out, man. I
I love
appreciate
that.
you. Let people know where they can find you. I'm sure it's very easy now.
Yeah. MarquisMurray.com. MarQuis. Yeah. There you're going to find resources. You can go to YouTube. You can listen to the podcast. I've got a new community called the System Builder Academy. It's for ops-minded people that want to learn and share experiences. So yeah, there's nowhere where you can't find me now.
Boom, there it is. Just Google, man. Men's are up. Okay. All right. I want to let you guys know that Marquis is the real one. So if you are looking for inspiration and information, if you're looking to find out the real nuts and bolts of like how operations work inside of a company, this is the person that you want to make sure that you're talking to, because, or at least be following and all, get on the newsletter, because it's going to provide huge insight and, really push forward your business. Okay, that's it for now. I've been Bart. Peace out.